No, I'm just trying to say,
Oh,
now the electron, would that spin in a counterclockwise rotation? Or is that also relative? I know in the children's teaching, if you continue, Mr. Keshe said that most plasmas spin in an anti-clockwise manner. Some of them that spin in a clockwise manner, we call them positron. So would you say the proton and the electron are both spinning in the same direction, or are they spinning in opposite directions?
Mark,
Yes,
could I add something, Alex?
of course.
If they're spinning on a plane, there is no counterclockwise and clockwise, because it all depends if you're looking from up above or down below, what is up and what is down.
I just wanted to determine if they're both spinning in the same direction or opposite directions.
Well, but then
Okay.
it's easier to say that, isn't it? Why say counterclockwise? The same as if when you've got a screw, it's easier to say left hand screw or right hand screw.
no, we don't go that way. Sorry. Can I come in? First of all, the plasma's position or direction of turn is dependent on their internal gravitational magnetic field strength in respect to their environment gravitational magnetic fields. And that's the universal field forces, always due to the higher to feed the lower pushes an anti-clockwise. When the fields are in a way that the environmental field strength is stronger or internal field strength is weaker, they turn to be what we call clockwise. We don't have screws in the universe which we are going or coming out. This is a big mistake which was made at the beginning by a lot of knowledge seekers and created a mayhem. The direction of the position, we know this because we have reactors. We see how we change, and secondly is primarily position dependent too. So if you have the bigger strength and the smaller strength, but you move the position, you get the clockwise going anti-clockwise and anti-clockwise going clockwise. So there are two main factors. One, environmental, and then the position. Dictates if the plasma rotates in the direction of the flow of the higher order to a lower order as it turns to absorb in, or higher, lower order or a positioning that it turns clockwise, that it spreads out. And within a nucleus of multi-plasmas of neutron and protons, we see combination of these neutrons, rotations. It's not that all the electrons and all the protons and all the neutrons are all turning the clockwise or all turning anti-clockwise. And when the collective fields of an element in respect to its environment and a position is weaker, the element always turns anti-clockwise. This is a practical fact we know for years, and we have experimented many times to confirm this. What is positron? That positron can become electron, if you call it, if I change the field forces or the position of that electron in respect to the nucleus. And this is one of the only two primary conditions for a plasma to turn. And if you create a condition that the plasma has a leakage in respect, trying to find a position in respect to a combination of fields, you get bodies like Earth. turns in an angle. And if you pressurize it through the field, that it goes through a 90 degrees rotation, like one of the planetary systems in the solar system. And why another planetary system on the in the solar system go clockwise? Because it has moved into a close proximity of the sun. Otherwise, before, it used to be different. And this change of direction is not that it's going to be in one go. It happens over time. It doesn't shrug off all the materials off it. In some cases, does. Depends how fast the approach is. And this is one of the prime ways when we control flight. In the flight systems, all our reactors do not turn anti-clockwise, or our approach to a position is clockwise or anti-clockwise. We create combination of for takeoff or landing inside the system. In a way, if you go into a multi-systems, which is part of the defense technology of the space, we create combination of reactors. In the combination of reactors, and some of the teachings in the past, I have explained. I'm trying to get my, what I call, laptop on, that I can explain this very clearly.
Mark, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
Please.
Thanks, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. Can somebody give me the number, please?
The number,
Yes, for the Zoom.
yes, 959
959
7129
729
3280.
32. EG.
80.
Okay. Wait 1 second. Just wait 1 second. I have a problem establishing. The process of the, just wait 1 second, please. I have to get a link. We have discussed this before in some previous teachings, but the main objective of all the asking to sign in. How can I sign in? Join a meeting. Doesn't allow me to go. Just wait 1 second, please. Repeat again. 959 7129 32. He's asking me to sign in. Why should I sign in?
The bill wasn't paid?
I don't know. It's the one I usually use for the teachings. I don't know. Okay, let's till I get that sorted out for you to explain. I was trying to bring in to show you that we can create multi-layers. And some of the layers especially in a higher order compact environment plasmas, like we go into plutonium above, we have seen in some occasions in what we call high density electrons or centers, what we call the nucleuses, that odd electrons within the what we call section rotate opposite clockwise. And some sections, just 1 second, please.
You're in now on 2 systems.
Yes, okay, just wait 1 second. I have to go sharing screen by. In some of the atomic structures, we see the nucleus with number of protons and number of electrons and neutrons. And what we see in different levels, they'll all be anti-clockwise. Odd one here is clockwise, or odd one here is clockwise, and the rest are anti. These are due to the magnetic field forces which they create within. It's very much, if you always explain it, if you have a football, if you remember the footballs we play, most of and it's made of hexagonal sections. Every few pieces, we have a pentagon. We can't fit in a hexagon. It's the same situation. In some places, we cannot have clockwise. We have to have anti-clockwise. We have the clockwise. Because the reality is, when you look at the structure of, let's say, a nucleus, and you have, if you can imagine it, 3-dimensional with neutrons and protons, they all create themselves a field force in a 3-dimension, which is the soul of the nucleus. The positioning in the center of the nucleus is dependent on the soul of it, which is controlling it. And that soul, in interaction with the others, dictates field forces direction. So the actual position or rotation of the neutron or a proton is dependent on the position not only into its neighbors, but into the soul of the electron too, what called atom 2 in the nucleus. In defense technology, we use this, that if you have a spaceship, we have what we call multi-layering. We have spoken about this many times, where this is in one of the papers, where this is your aircraft with all your reactors, depending how you arrange it. The first one is anti-clock. The next one is clockwise. And the third one is anti-clock. This is one of the most perfect systems for high-speed travel with a full shielding protection. Because if any trajectory comes to manages to take this one will repel it out. Even in the position of the repel goes through, this one will return it. Penetration is more or less 0. We have developed this technology. This is not something theoretical, that we create such a condition that we see the position of direction of rotation. In the new enhancement vertical units, we see this clearly in our test systems. We see, for example, if we have a plasma, the plasma not only rotates with a heartbeat, the plasma rotates with a swing too. And depending on how we do, the direction of the swing and the environment of the swing changes. So you never, or the only way you consider plasmatic interaction is how they rotate. Now that we know direction of the flow depends on the gravitational magnetic field of the center in respect to the environment and to the relative positioning of the sun, for example, on the earth, and at the same time, the distance. In the Iranian tests, we saw this very clearly. If you remember the small reactor, if you have it, you're trying to put it up, and you have the big reactor. The way we used to load up, on how we load up, and on the lab test, how we would put them approximately, we could see which way it flows and which way it comes. That's how we know how proximity affects the direction of rotation, changes electron to positron, as you call it. And when we change the number of nuclear sources in this one, which we could be much weaker, or being much, much weaker or much, much stronger, we could see how the balls, when it gets the trajectory flight, which way it goes. And it became a game in Sharif Tehran University to guess where to pick the ball by the loading. And a few times it dropped on the floor. We couldn't, our guessing was right, and that's how we learned. And many times, I've said before, when it flies, in catching it, because it's got pins on it, I have caught myself. Because it goes with a high speed. I have collected against the glass, throwing itself. These are, when we speak about the fields, now we have to be more precise and understand the process. Sometimes if what we've seen, for example, with one of the planetary systems in our solar system, this planetary system rotates on its x-axis. The reason being, the field forces from the planetary in the back, the larger planets, and at the same time, the central forces of the sun, it tends to go in a clockwise, or anti-clockwise, but the field forces return, which is spread from the top and bottom, forces axial rotation. In a way, the Saturn and Jupiter create this turn. That's why Uranus rotates on its axis, on the x-axis. It's not much to do with the sun. The thing will be there, but in a few billion years' time, when it comes closer, it will go on its own, most probably anti-clock. But this process takes billions of years, so it gets adjusted. Any planetary system comes in the vicinity of, to be in the bandwidth of the same strength of Uranus, will fly on its x-axis.
So it's rolling like a ball rather than spinning like a top.
Yep, that's what Uranus does. But the main field forces not only is inside, but at the same time, field forces from Saturn, especially Saturn and Uranus and Jupiter, are putting a lot of reverse back pressure, which has turned the Uranus to a side. It's a saturation of flow of the plasma. When the current flow changes in the direction of the high voltage, what we call potential difference of the two field forces of gravity and the magnetic field within the structure, that forces changes of the current flow. And in that is so powerful that can turn a planet. This is, as I said many times, this is the reason, the prime reason that the UFOs or flight system are made in half plates. Or if you see the most of the reactors we produce are in half, to stop this process happening, because by spreading the star formation, we more or less guarantee for the system not going to turn. If you lose one of your reactors in flight, the other three can support. If you lose two, most probably go into the trajectory to the silent, depends where you go. These are what it is in the space development, but we see it in what I said in, as I said in the atomic structure, you see some electrons in a given what we call layers are positron and electron, but they are the same electron in the same what we call atomic structure. So what you might see, this one is on the S1 and the other one is on the S2 level, the same as what you see the Sun, the Venus and Uranus. That position in respect to it has created a, instead of an anti-clockwise, a clockwise rotation. And here it has created an axial rotation. It's no difference. You put the Sun here, you put the nucleus there. Call this one Uranus, so you call this one what we call Venus. There's no difference if once you understand the fundamental. And because we have reactors, we have tested so many reactors over years, we can clarify this very quickly and we can show it. Because most of the time, when you go into the saturation of your reactors, when we have an inner reactor, this inner reactor going anti-clockwise set by the motor stops. And then it starts clockwise. 100% of the time this happens if you can keep field forces within the structure continuously the same. I've seen this thousands of times. And most of the time, change of the direction gives me a lot of signs it's a flight position or not flight position.
The words and the knowledge just roll off your lips so naturally and so beautifully. I hope we can achieve this.
It's learning, it's a learning curve. It's a process, understanding and seeing it. I have spent many hours in the lab, many hours in the process of understanding things with a lot of physical testing. When I start writing, when actually, as I said before, when we came to Belgium and the Belgians wanted to see, I brought a lot of scientific papers to show them what I say is correct. I never read scientific papers, but I had to go and find what I say scientifically exists. I've never read a single scientific paper to go and produce or get something from it. I always looked in what I have to see what other scientists have proven for my work to be correct. And that's why I say never read scientific papers. Never read books by other scientists in the way you want to think, because they affect your way of thinking. In all the proof of technology, once we had the knowledge, then we went into the scientific papers to find out what other scientists confirmed the work of what we done. I never read books. It's just understanding the science. If you read any scientific paper by other people and then make an evaluation, the knowledge is not yours. So you're depending on what, and then you might see something little out to it. But if you keep always away from other people's work and stick to your own way of thinking and see different avenues of it, you always find more angles, more knowledge into it.
Mr. Keshe, may I ask, astronomically, why do we consider north up and south down?
We don't call it up and down. That's your explanation. I call it in and out.
Yeah,
It could be
fine.
any direction. It could be any direction.
Yeah, we're right there. I think the same way. But then if we look at it from up above and it goes counterclockwise, if
No,
we look
no,
at it,
no, 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 no. Let's.
Uh-huh.
I explained this very recently. If you look at magnetic fields, you have as much coming in as much going out. Doesn't matter which end you are. You see, we never understood the reality about the plasma magnetic field movement. In our magnets, when we throw the iron dust, we see these lines, we see the space, but we only look at the matter lines where the dust goes. We never considered what about the space gap, what comes in the space gap, what creates the gap between. If they were the same, these lines should have joined in here, but they don't join, do they? They stay separate. So there must be a separate line in this structure, which is your gravitational field. And this field comes out here, and this field goes out there. And the other biggest mistake we make in the world of planetary system, we always say they go. But in fact, some of the fields enter here, and some of the fields enter this way. In planetary system, when we see the drawings from the whatever, they always show us this. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. If it was this, and we do not get this internal, even from the vertical side, we get a flow. Even from here, we get a flow. Otherwise, our atmosphere would have been in literally two lumps. It's not, it's spherical. So one of the biggest mistakes in the present world of plasma or cosmology is that the magnetic fields of the planetary, depending on the strength of field where it comes, goes this way. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. The fields are continuously in a flow of their own. Is a three-dimensional. That's why in totality we have a continuous atmosphere. Because some go from here this way. We don't have a residual field flow the way we see it physically drawn. We have field airflow, what we call airflow or field flow like air, which these can link with and go on. There's a lot of misrepresentation in the world of cosmology. But at the same time, when you want to travel into a planetary system like Earth, what do? You come in from the top or the bottom at the weakest length and you come in. Or you come in from the bottom at the weakest length, not through the field floors, through the gap between the field floors. That's why, especially in South America and in part of what we call Southern Hemisphere, we see a lot of traffic on UFOs because this is a way of approach. You come in at the weakest point, you have less resistance, less possibility of accident. This is why we see these kind of things. There are a number of reasons. UFOs, or when man flies, will never take this trajectory. We always come most probably on the softest, weakest to come in. Less possibility of accident. This way is too much interaction. Where there is a ditch, it means you have a weakness, it can come in much easier. And this is why South America has such a huge traffic of UFOs. There are resources in South America, especially in Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia. There is a source of energy which we explain in the future, I've said recently.
Yeah, that's true. And is that why the planes aren't allowed to go over the poles because of the density of the
No,
magnetic
this is a different reason for that.
Mhm.
That is totally different reason. But now we understanding more. Now we enter the space technology. We have to understand more about space technology. We have to understand the space technology, not just what we want to explain and get away with.
Mr. Keshe,
Yes.
this is Miguel Moreno from Mexico City. I want to add to this information that we can learn a lot when we are building the reactors, the motion reactors, because some days ago I was projecting light inside of one reactor, and I was be able to see a very small black hole creating in the center of the core. So that teach me that everything could be created by micro or micro black holes, everything in the matter. Could you help us to understand a little bit more if that is right?
We see these kind of characteristics depending on the field flow within the center of the reactors. You're not the first one who's seen black holes inside the center. We've seen it for many years. Usually, it needs a specific combination of mixture of gases. And the field flow becomes in a way that you don't absorb, or you absorb all the energy fields which are flowing in. So it's darker, it's not black. It's shadowy darker than it's there. And it's very, very small, usually are very, very small. They are not big. Where with the matter state plasma centers, we see a big ball, a big hole. If you looked at it, it must be very, very tiny black, darker. It's not huge. You cannot hold.
Actually, I was be able to see it because I was projecting light.
Yes, but it's not the size of the usual, which is about a fifth of a ball we see in the center with the gas and the water. These are very tiny compared, very tiny.
Yeah, so tiny, so tiny. And another thing that I was be able to see is that the micro black hole is made by another smaller black holes rotating, but
You
this
see,
smallest.
these black holes we see is the reflection of the interaction of the fields in respect to the light you shine on them. In
Okay.
reality, they are not black. In reality, the way you shine light on them, they look black. But they do exist, and we see these if usually sometimes when you add a hydrogen or H3 combination in your reactor.
This was made by the 4 cups of the life. I didn't put the fifth one that was with the H3. Just I used 4 of them.
Yeah. Usually what we see is when the hydrogen H3 or tritium are in position, we see the black signs or the condition, which is deuterium, mainly we see it. Or you create a condition of the deuterium, which shows itself as a darker shade. It's not black. It's grayish darker in respect to its environment.
Actually, it's not black. The light is making the shape
Yes.
of the fields interacting.
No,
You
is what
want
you
to see the
see
video?
with the light. You see the interaction of the fields. That interaction looks slightly darker than the environment they're in. You don't make a black hole. It's an interaction of the fields. You see this quite often.
I have a small video. Do you want to see it? Or later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've seen many of these. I create them for a specific purpose, but you don't see it as a black that you can't see the center of it. It's a translucent black. You can see through it.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, it's true. I'm gonna show you
Yes.
the video. And you can see in the center how gonna be interacting the fields. And the movement of the fields. A little bit later. Almost there.
It's
Almost
a
there. You're
shadow.
gonna see that right there, right there. The movement. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a shadow of the field, translucent.
Yep.
What have you put in the bowl?
The 4 guns that we made for the cup of life.
Which one?
The first one that is made by the copper, regular copper, the nano-coated copper, and zinc plate. This is the first one. The second one was two coils.
Did you use cup number 4 or 5?
No, 1, 2, and 5. I just put away the
use cup number 5, not cup number 4.
Yeah, it's true. All the zinc, nano-coated zinc. I put away just
No. Cup number 5, the bottom one is number 5, which is the Earth gravitational field. Okay. Did you use the bottom one? The Earth.
The Earth that has a H3?
No. did you use the cup number 5, the one at the bottom of the stack?
Yes, I did.
Okay, then that's correct. Because in that field, you have an iron with a zinc coating of the cup number 1 or 2, you have created the hydrogen, H3. You create that condition of the production of the, because of the iron and zinc, which you have from most of the cup number 1 on the top, you have produced the H3, that the interaction H3 and H in that combination creates these shadows. This we know.
And this is another example that I think that is increasing the energy for the shape.
You see, these are interaction of the field which come into. This is why at the beginning, I asked you if you have a H or H3 in your container, in your ball. And now when you explain that you use the bottom one, cup number 5, which has an iron in it, you, with the guns of the cup number 1 or 2, you have created like what we use the zinc plate iron, which leads to creation of the high CH3, which you don't have the CH3 in there, you have a H3 and a H. And this is why you get the dark, that gray dark color.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. This comes, as I said to you, from, if you want to see your screenshot. This is what, as I said, comes from the interaction of the H and H3. We always see this when this combination is used in a specific way, because you have an iron at the bottom as part of the structure of your gravitational magnetic field of the Earth. And you had the, what we call the copper and the zinc, you have mixed the gases of these, and in a specific combination, a strength of the field, you create both of these, that the interaction gives the shadowy shape of what we call deuterium. And that's why you see the black spot, and it's very tiny.
About this teaching made me think that maybe everything start with a black hole, but no, like but not like we used to think. Like it's like mixing energy, like if a boy is making with mixing the energies, men and female, in different way.
You can look at it that way if you like. You can look at it that way if.
Like if the universe is a matrix and is entering energy energy to make everything inside of the universe.
We can assume, we can explain anything in any direction.
Yeah, just was a point of view.
Yes, you can, as I said, in this technology, you are never wrong. But you have to see if we can prove it, and it's there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. I came in because this had to be, we tried to start clarifying a lot of points at the outset in a lot of ways that we all go into the next step of the technology in a clearer way.
Thank you very
Sorry
much
about
for clarifying
Thank you
this,
very much.
Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
So another question I was going to ask Alex, and maybe he can do it. When we have a plasma.
I'm going
that-
away. You can carry on. Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
I sent a message to Alex privately. Why do I sense he's always leaving me in the dust, so to speak? Smile. And he uses such a simple explanation. So Alex, if we have the plasma, let's say, and that's considered a neutron, yeah?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but if that plasma wants to travel from one location to another location, apparently the neutron, instead of being spherical, becomes cylindrical and elongated as a light, like in book number 2. And then when it reaches its point of destination, it then converts itself back into a spherical plasma.
The point that I was
What
trying
gives
to,
it the impetus to move from one location to the other?
well, it is always moving. The question is, what's causing the attraction? So there's always a.
No, you gotta explain it much better. Come on, Alex. That's not the reason.
Be
Where-
because in the beginning, in the nucleus, when it's liberating the neutron, is where the energy starts to go outside.
Once you have the MAGRAV condition, that is creating the structure. And so the fields are attracting more and more, and then the MAGRAV.
Come on, Alex.
grows.
Let's ask a question. Let's start debate. You want to go from Toronto to New York, and you want to fly with your spaceship. What is criteria of your motion, and how do you know you're going to land in New York?
Well, I I have a reluctance.
And then when you
to
get
go
to
into
New
that
York, then you
discussion.
decide to go to Tokyo. This is what we're going to do. You see the spaceships you see above you don't just happen to land here. They decide to be in that position. So now this is what I told you many times in the past. The biggest problem for the man at the beginning would not be to take off, is to which way you fly. Where are you gonna fly? Or are you gonna go, your, what do you call it, compass doesn't work in the universe. Where is the Earth and where is God knows planet Zeus? How do you go to? How do you create a condition to be attracted to? How do you land in center of Red Square in China, and not by accident in the middle of what do you call it, Moscow? How do we devise flight systems that can be pinpoint accurate?
The inertia.
You've
Partially.
told us in the past that every point has a specific magnetic gravitational field strength. And so to get to that specific point, you match that.
We don't have any GPS in the universe. You're not very far wrong.
The question I have is, how do you predict the destination point?
How do you receive fields from the destination point?
Right. Once you told us,
This is sorry, but I'm going to jump in here because this is why I said our magnetic fields are like this and not the way they show us. This is nonsense. You are in Toronto and you want to land in New York, a specific position in New York. You want to land on the dark side of the moon in a given cavity area. How do you get there? Taking off the table is easy. Trying to find directions is easy. But now, when you take off a new direction, how do you know you're going to land there? Not there.
Right, especially if you haven't been there before.
Exactly.
Okay, if we haven't been there before, I'm not quite clear, but I know two things. You said that the
What
bird,
happened? If you've been there, you put a grain of the place in your pocket, you know that's where you're going to go.
no, but you have the feeling, you have the recognition of the specific field strength
That
of that
man will
point.
never get out of the moon, out of the earth.
Well, but you've
Because
also
he's never
told
been
us
there.
that when we look at a star, we see the star, that when we see that, there is a part of that communication between us that tells us that specific field strength, the specific identity of the location of that star. Now, it's not just eyesight, I know that, but it's a recognition of its field strength, and we know.
Don't forget, you are rotating and that thing is rotating too.
Okay.
So by the time you get there, it's moved. How do you lock yourself to the position?
Well, but it's moved, but it still has the same field strength.
Yes. But how do you go from Earth to the planet, what do you call it, to the moon and land on a specific position? You know, it's no use your wife inviting you for dinner on a, what do you call, a restaurant in center of New York, and you end up 2 blocks away in somebody else's restaurant there. You want to land exactly in the right place. I was just, where have you been? I
Okay,
landed in the wrong place.
but isn't it like the magnets you show us at the table? One magnet is attracted to another. Even if one of the magnets is moving, the other magnet is still going to go to it, even if it's moves to a different position, because it's being attracted to the source that it's matching to. And even if it moves quickly, the other one is going to catch up to it, because it's not going to a certain point, it's going to a certain field strength of attraction.
I'm trying to find a way to stretch your understanding without giving much away, as usual. You know, I'm very stingy with information.
You're stumping our panelists.
Is it emotion?
Pardon?
Is it emotion?
Nope.
Folding the time, interacting with the time, with the gravitational field.
You're there, merely. You're there. Partially.
Could he repeat that, please?
No, don't repeat it, that land.
Okay.
No. I'm in a very good mood today. I just became a grandfather just about a few minutes ago.
She came.
God bless.
She came after a week late.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very much. Literally past few minutes she's born. She's a gorgeous girl.
Congratulations, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Keshe.
thank you very much. So I'm in a very good mood. I'll try to stretch your knowledge as a gift for the birthday of my granddaughter. She's gorgeous.
Magrav.
Why don't you do like Ella said and just tell us clearly?
Specificity. the knowledge of understanding is understanding the process of the creation. And in what strength of what field in which part of the universe exists, that you can specify that, first of all, which part of the universe you want to be. Because each section of the universe has different field strength. A man, by testing and traveling, will get more and more of it, but in a way, the universal community will give you this knowledge. You will learn very quickly. And in that process, then you'll find out what field at which strength come from a certain region of that. And then what field and what strength come from certain points in that region. Because the plasmatic field of the universe are masked on top of each other or inside each other. If this is a magnetic field of this point and there is another area in it that you want to go in it, this will cover this. And inside it, there is a masking of this. And inside it, there is a masking of this. In a way, you have to be able to break through to be able to get to the point. You know, this field region is from this part of the universe. Then you know this field, the strength of here is from this region of the universe. And then you know this strength comes from a specific point. You cannot most of the time go through to the same. It's preferable, man will understand later on, to have this diversion. Because you always end up within the region you want to be. And then at the region, as you come closer, you move into the inner, and then when you come near, you move to the center. And it's the same with the what we call gravitational magnetic field of the earth. This is why when we told you to make the 5 cups, we gave you the inertia. You're still in your system, because you created the gravitational magnetic field of the earth, you never leave earth. Because of the field strength, you are within it. Then you know the region, the field strength of the planetary system, and then you direct it to the spot. What happened if they change a building there by the time you've been there the last time? Never destroy your, what do you call it, 5 cup stack, because it's the best way you can learn everything about the flight system, especially for the time being on Earth. Anyone who destroyed their stacker, you're a fool. Because you lost yourself the opportunity to be able to become the travelers of even on Earth. You grounded yourself because you have no position to test and see. As I said, when you make the stacker unit, when you make your gravitational systems, now you bring different elements. You learn in a very near future, as the lady told us, you can even travel to the emotion of a nation. These people have such an emotion, it will land you in that area. Because emotion has a feeling, has a field strength. And this is how you narrow yourself to. How do you land when you want to go to a football match and the 50,000 are going there? You follow the people. Now you follow the feel the people, the souls who are Manchester United supporters, and that's a match where they're going to end up. the more field strength direction, you end up in the Manchester United ground. Sorry about Manchester United, let's support them too much, but that's what it is. But that's how we can do. Then, as I said, you had a field, you narrowed it to the region, you narrowed it to the point, and now you narrow it to the soul of the wife whenever she kills you. And you land up on the table where she's sitting. You started from Toronto, and these fields exist in every level of position. You have an appointment with a wife in New York, you know her emotional field strength is very easy in Toronto, created, but you still have to go through the same process.
Mr. Keshe, I have a question.
You should better have two because you are Jalal's friend.
Could be, could be. Do you think that the sodium in very high temperature rotating help us to reach?
Pardon? Can you repeat?
Do you think that the sodium in very high temperature and rotating can help us to make a gravitational field?
Why sodium?
Sodium and other elements also, but
Any
most,
element, an element can give you gravitational field. Even an
because
electron can give you gravitational field.
because the sodiums make a magnetical field, but in very high.
Anything makes a magnetical. I can make a magnetical field from copper for you.
Copper, okay.
The thing is to understand in comparison to what? How weaker is the sodium compared to this environment that can attract other fields? Again,
All right. So we can.
you understand?
Yeah, we need to investigate the elements from the place that we want to travel to interact with the.
No, not necessarily elements. These things will gradually open up as we introduce the enhancement, what we call for travel and for positioning, and it comes. Try to, as much as many of you can, try to play with your Stacker 5. If it'll give you a huge knowledge, observing the whole field flow, especially in where you want to land, which planet you want to play with the fields of planet Zeus or Jupiter, you play with the bottom, different combination, different plates. You want to play with a region of given field, you play with the inertia. You want to see the creatures of this condition, you play with the soul and or with the physicality or the soul of physicality. Never this, because when you do this, you see the interaction of the fields of the environment. You're not isolated. It's like the present knowledge. You take things in the matter state. When you put a stacker unit up and you test it, then it gives you the full knowledge of how does the environment of the position, how does the fields of the environment, how does the physicality, how does the soul of physicality, how does the soul of the entity, which finds itself in respect to the center of the field, interact. Any of you, stop using the 5 cups, the stackers. You better stop working and trying to understand the work of the, what we call the space technology. The 5 stacker is the key to the work, understanding of the flight, lifestyle, shape of life, position of the planet. Some fools ask you to destroy your crops. They are fools because they have no knowledge of the creation and work.
Actually, I want to add that the 5 cups is a secret of the life
Yes, it's a
because
secret.
I have ganses inside on my fridge, so I have some John, ¿cómo se dicen ajos? Garlic.
Garlic, yeah.
I have some garlic, and they were growing up without water. So that told me that uh, is it's like a resurrection because it's the life coming back, but without water, without roots. It's amazing. So I don't have words to say thank you for all this great knowledge, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. You got to understand, if you look at the 5 stack of cups, it's the body of the man too. If you understand it. Man has a brain, soul, and you have where you produce your creation, your child, your sperm, your egg. The two extremes, and then you find out how the soul reacts, how the physicality is created, how by looking at this, you can understand the emotion of the man, the life of the man. 5-cup stacker is not just for one thing, it's understanding the principle of the creation and its interaction with its environment. Try to expand the knowledge of the 5 cups with different combination of materials, not just the 3 we just gave you as a groundwork. Don't put a stacker there and see what it does. Change the plates, add number of plates, add more different dilution of the salt. And then you see what you get.
Mr. Keshe, can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can ask any question. I'm here like you, knowledge.
I'm Selina Rahman. I'm from Georgia. 4 years, almost 4 years, I go some places, but I don't know how I go there, but I see something, some places, a lot of places, but I don't know how I go there.
Is it by imagination or real physical body?
Not real physical body, but it's feel like real, more than real. More than real.
I don't know. I'm not there, so I cannot tell you how. Mankind will learn very slowly, especially as you produce different gases, that you create condition that allows the soul of the man to take different what we call positions. Gradually we'll see this, and we'll explain this in a more and more simpler ways as it comes. One of the very first what we call transportation systems you will see in the next few weeks coming out of the Keshe Foundation research labs is that we will place one system, let's say in New York, and we place one system in Austria. We can leave one in Arizona, and we can transmute elements between the two, anything, a cat, a dog, a man, or whatever. And then we can move the same system to Mexico Research Center or place, and we transmute to Mexico. But because the system was previously in Arizona, we can still go to Arizona too, but the system is not in Arizona. It left a trace. It left a position. This is how your cells are created. So in a way, if you feel you've been somewhere and you've really been there, you can feel it through the emotion of the physicality, possible. But doesn't mean that the physical system is there. You have to, most of the knowledge seekers, and I emphasized on this before, you have to extend your knowledge and understanding of the fourth stack. And what we call the soul, or what we call the essence of the central field forces of the system. When we say a soul is the sun, is the center, any system has a central fields that the rest interact with and position themselves in respect to. Your soul is where your liver, in respect to your positions, is its place in the body of the man, where your kidney does in respect to. We see many people talking about, I don't give myself. This shows there is no understanding of. We are not the soul buyers and soul sellers. So you're a hypocrite. When we speak about the soul, it is the center of, and that center can connect itself to any center. And the new enhancement units, especially transportation ones, when they come, it shows the strength of where you sit as a center, as a sun, in respect to a position where you want to be there. You know, there is a very clear position. I explained this very clearly that most of you understand. We try to teach you to become man of a space. We try to teach you to become free. We try to teach you to be self-sufficient through interaction of use of the interaction of the fields. And there are those amongst you who want to keep you because they make a slave of you, the dimension of physicality. And this has to be very clear. When you speak about the soul, is interaction of the structure of your life with any position. You can travel to the moon, you can travel to any position. You got to understand, in all shape or forms, your soul, your center, your sun, it's the position it has in respect to other galaxies, to other souls. Nothing else. When in the Keshe Foundation we speak about the soul, it's the central position which decides to shape the place and the emotion which you physically interact with. The soul of the man is not something that it controls, you sell it or you buy it or give it. It's what you interact with. And that interaction gives you the time, the position, and the place that you shall be. Now that we understand more and more, you got to understand, how do you want your soul to be in respect to a position, or however you want your sun to be. You now become a solar system in a galaxy. And that galaxy is the planet Earth. And then in respect to that galaxy, where you want that soul be in respect to the universe. Once you learn to be part of, then it's easy to connect to the rest at any time, position, and space. The soul of the man is not something you hold and you control everything with. It's what you interact with to find position and space and interaction, then that the soul of the physicality in instruction, bring it to position it. This is why you suddenly go from A to B, and at B you meet such a thing in such a place or do such a thing. Because the soul has already decided on a movement, and the physicality interaction with the soul tries to find its position. It's a very clear understanding. And if you understand this, you become the man of universe very, very quickly. This is the soul of the man, the center where it interacts with all the fields. And this is the physicality of the man and the soul of physicality of the man. This soul has already made an arrangement to be in this position. So what does happen is the physicality follows to be in that position, even though it's carrying the soul with it. So when we speak about the soul, because this is interacting, has made an arrangement and a position with another soul, your physicality just carries it to be. You cannot sell your soul. Excuse me. Anybody tells you to you sell your soul, tell them you're so stupid. It's not a supermarket. Unless you're ignorant or you want to keep us in ignorant the way the religions did for years. Nobody can buy anybody's souls, nobody can sell anything. And I never gave my soul. So what it is, we call it a twin soul because it means it has an interaction with, and it finds itself in gravitationally weaker, in magnetically stronger, while the other one is magnetically weaker and gravitationally stronger, that it creates what we call interaction. Permanent interaction, an alloy, you call it, in the matter state. And this is what has to be understood. Because apparently there is a lot of confusion in the Keshe Foundation. Some people sold their soul, some people didn't sell their soul. And so tell them, please, where is the supermarket you want to buy someone? Unless they're ignorant. You'll find that the ignorant people come up with all sorts of answers for their own ignorance.
Mr. Keshe, this is Yvonne. Does the vertical enhancement unit have a connection to the stacker units that you produce?
Pardon?
Does the vertical enhancement unit through the fields produced have a connection to people's stacker units?
What do you mean to the people? The 5 stacker unit.
Yes, yes, the 5 stacker.
Why do you ask such a question?
It came to me as a thought, and as something comes to me as a thought,
you see,
must be a reason for it.
You see, if you create the gravitational magnetic field of what you create in your stacker unit, it might create a connection. It will connect connections if it is near it or anywhere in the universe. You have to have in your stacker unit the field strength of what I have in the vertical unit or in an enhancement unit.
So the fields have to match precisely.
The strength was yes.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to go out of the line of the work of the Keshe Foundation, and as to clear something for a lot of you. In the past few weeks and days, many of you have received a lot of emails, disclosures of the private communications of all sorts of natures and private, what we call governmental secret documents. Please be aware, Keshe Foundation instructions of Austrian police and Chief of Justice of Police and what we call prosecutors of Austria has given us a very clear indication. We will not respond to any of these as the subject is a matter of the High Court of what we call Austria under the rules and regulations of Austrian government. These we have been instructed by our lawyers and what we call chief prosecutor in Austria not to respond to any of these which have been seen on the internet. The people who have released this very soon will be arrested for disclosure of the security papers of the national interest. And by the laws of Austria, as of 1st of January, any dispersal of the knowledge or information to harm anyone, the way it has been done is a criminal offense and has up to 10 years prison sentence. We will not, on the instruction of the police of Austria and the judicial system in this country and our lawyers, will respond to any of the disclosures which you have seen. These are all lies and fabrication to damage the reputation of the Keshe Foundation and individuals. Please don't look at we don't respond, because the case now is part of the criminal law within Austria, because this information has been sent out of Austria, and the police and judiciary system of Austria has gone into motion, and we cannot disclose anything. And what you have seen on the net is a lot of fabrication, and especially made to see, and secret documents which belongs to national level security has been disclosed, and these will be responded by the Austrian police and will carry a custodial prison sentence. If you receive such a thing or see such a thing, please send it to info@Keshe Foundation or Keshe.Foundation, which the police of Austria is very interested to know to start what we call, they have already started their process to add to the file. I'm sorry to bring this here, but we've seen a lot of nonsense things flying and recordings on the YouTube and especially Facebook. And this now has become a criminal operation as of 1st of January on the statutory laws of Austria. Thank you very much. You will not see any response from us, as we've been advised from the beginning, because this is part of the what we call court case and will stay the same. We can give you the address of the prosecutors of Austrian government for you to contact and disclose all the documents to them as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Yes.
I'm Filippo from Italy, and I got two questions, like Jalal.
Oh my God, Jalal, I think we have to put you somewhere else.
I am putting myself outside.
Well, first of all, what about if you make the line of connection between the 5 cup? We use doing in the.
What do you mean by wires?
No, I mean by put 1 drop of the first cup and put 1 drop in each other cup.
That's what we asked you to do before. You make the lines very direct. But this is what we usually do in space technology.
Yes, that's why I ask you to make the line of connection.
Yes, this is something we always do. We always do.
Okay, good. And the next question is, can we make springs made by plastic and fill it up with guns instead using matter state?
What?
we use make springs made by copper, made by zinc, made by any kind of other materials. I thought, what's happened if you build springs made by plastics, pipe plastics, and then we fill it up these springs made by plastic with any kind of guns. Instead,
Yeah.
using matter state.
If it is all liquid, gases moving in the spring, no. We did this some times ago with glass. We did this a few years ago. We bought a jar with coils in it, if I remember correctly, and then sealed at the bottom. The energy field coming down this spiral with the gases inside was so much that you open the seal and the material leaks. So you find you have an energy balance point when you find you have to close the tip. We saw the same thing more or less when we made the paint pens. If you notice, the paint pens you buy from Keshe Foundation have a different tip, because when they put a spiral coil in it with the copper nanocoated at the end, it kept on melting the tip. You can make it, but be careful of the way you make that this thing, your spiral, feeds back to another somewhere else. Otherwise, at the end, after a while, you get a leakage.
Well, if you use just the field with GANS coating, what about this?
You still end up with the same thing, because the fields in a spiral is not just a normal wire. The spiral, it creates a field flow from here to here. It's not what is in the pipe. It's a field which is moving down. You understand?
Yeah.
The field, as it goes down, becomes stronger and stronger, because it's not just what is in the pipe, it's the fields which are outside the pipe interaction. It's not a matter state anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Good morning and good night, everybody. Mr. Keshe, I had a question about the KFTV, if you permit.
Yes.
I wanted to ask if, for example, I am Farsi teaching, Farsi language, but I live in Europe.
Yeah.
And the group in that country which I live, she proposed me that I can be, if I want, one of the 3 people for that country.
There's no problem from where you are, what you are. It's you. When you become a teacher, you have to have all the facilities to make the recording and everything else. Teaching is not just teaching. Tomorrow we'll have the people named with us, hopefully, to be able to take us through this. Is the people who come in for teachings or news or whatever. It is, if you cannot teach from France Farsi, because that falls within the structure of the Farsi language team, which is in Iran. If they ask you to be teaching Farsi in the group, there's not a problem, but you still have to have all the materials for it to be done. We are talking on a television level, not talking on just a voice. And people in France cannot appoint somebody to teach for Farsi language. But if people from France appoint you to be for the teaching, The French group has to introduce the other two members of the group as well for news and the KFTV, which then they will be brought into the, what you call, the TV channel controlling panel of the people who are there from different languages.
Oh, I don't know, because I think they should have good teachers.
If you're a Farsi teachers or whatever, it has to go on the team of the Farsi group or management of the Farsi language. We have many Iranians in New York or Washington or Los Angeles who want to be part of the teaching in Farsi or the news in Farsi. There's no problem with it, but it has to go through the Farsi channel, not through the American trying to do the Farsi teaching. It's all goes back to the base and to where we control. We start the whole process next week, and it's already, I think, about 15 countries, 16 languages have already submitted the members, or some individual people from different languages have appointed themselves to be for that language as the foundation knows them. But at the end of it, there has to be, there are more people than one person in the country. And has to be a structure to cover all three of them. We try to be very correct with this because many people volunteer themselves to be on the TV station, and we can't accept. Unless you are a single person from that country, we have no other knowledge, which is literally impossible. And then we go to that, to one single person. But you'll find out more people are there in the background, and they'll get involved more and more.
We will see. Thank you.
We have to. Thank you very much. If you want to teach as in Farsi, you have to speak to people in Tehran who are running it, and they had some people making application from Iran, and they want to know what's the credentials, what they can do, or whatever. And then we go the same way. You got to realize, while we're at this subject, I have to announce, as Keshe Foundation now is fully involved in negotiation of peace negotiation with Iran and United States in the background, and hopefully very soon in the front line. We try to keep the, what we call, the news of these negotiations on or off the KFTV for the reasons of what we see. We are trying to, in these negotiations, to bring what I established as a 5+2, to bring the state of Palestine, including the state of Israel, in it, that we can find a permanent solution for the Middle East. We are changing, hopefully, if everything is agreed in the coming days, the position of Iran in respect to the American government and the American administration. Where, can you close your microphones, please? Where we clearly state one way, technology in exchange for peace. And this will be the outline of the Keshe Foundation negotiation with the American administration. We will not negotiate on the basis of nuclear. We have moved away from nuclear, and our nuclear technology is sacrosanct to the integrity of the Iranian government and its nation. I know American representatives are sitting from the Biden office in the background here listening. This is a message to the White House. Keshe Foundation, in collaboration with Sepah of Iran and Iran government, and the whole administration of the, what we call the space technology Iran, is the only thing that Iran will negotiate from now on. We consider nuclear technology obsolete and no ground to work on. We can give you all Iranian nuclear technology as a gift to you because it's useless to you, because it's over and it's finished. The term of negotiation for American administration is very clear. Iran has space technology in exchange for a total withdrawal of sanctions from Iranian nation as of immediate effect on the completion of negotiation. The same goes for the administration in Tel Aviv. We will not compromise the integrity of Iranian territory or the Palestinian rights to be equal within Palestine. Exchange of technology for peace is the only way Iranian government from now on will negotiate. We will not accept any other terms by this as of today on the construction and structure of the nuclear industry of Iran, which is more or less with the present technology we have obsolete. If you want our donkey, you're quite welcome to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Any
much.
other? Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Keshe, when you describe that almost perfect shield around the spacecraft with the field going one way, the middle field going the other way, the outside field going the other way, if you're traveling at such a high speed and a small rock or a grain of something comes in there, it could go right through the spacecraft if it was.
No,
If
there is
no,
no
no,
way.
no, I understand. My point was that when the fields actually dissolve whatever was trying to get through there, there's no explosion, as I understand it, or as I read in the book. It's just a disintegration of the fields at
Very
the
correct.
atomic level.
It is what happens if you understand a deeper end of this knowledge. When you have this, if this is your aircraft, then go back to your knowledge. At this point, you are in a matter environment in the space of the plasma. When you enter this zone, now you are in a magnetic gravitational field plasma. When you go further, you are in a deeper field strength. So in these conditions, you're not, here is your skin and this is the earth. So you're in like a matter state shape. But once you enter the body of the man, you're in a plasma state. Now here you're in a stronger plasma state, and here even worse. So when you enter in one of these stages, sooner or later, the minute you enter in some position, you behave as a plasma, it doesn't matter what you are. The interaction with the body is impossibility. This is one of the reasons on Earth we have that meteorites can get in one or whatever, can get straight away through, because we have a one layer cover and a high speed. In these, when you get to the middle layer, you're already in a full flow gravitational magnetic field, and you become like a plasma. Most of your strength is lost. Now you become like a virus. You're not a trajectory anymore. You're a soft ball. And if you come even to the inner side, you just disintegrate in a way of opening of the gravitational magnetic field up. And this is what we look at. This is why we change. The only way we have seen in deeper space travels, some high speed, high magnetic field waves can penetrate through. Because they are more or less not particles, but they're just energies, which they have not integrated, but they come with a high speed. We've seen it on Earth. It's we see it to go through our body, and in so many ways you change into a dimension of plasma, and especially at the highest speed, you are never behave like what do you call it? You're not a photon anymore. You're a plasma, even if you can explain it that way.
I just thought it was so interesting that there's no physical explosion at all. It's just a disintegration of the fields.
In a way, you put the sugar in the hot water. Any other question?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, good afternoon, good evening. I have a friend on Arizona, and she's asking me right now if the plant in Arizona is already inaugurated, or if you planning to inaugurate it, and this plant will have the universal body spaceship enhancement spaceship unit. Thank you.
There are 12 enhancement units, and a number of vertical enhancement units will be in the air, and most probably the transportation system available in Arizona. As I explained in the Thursday teaching, we have started the procedure of production, the final production of the mass production of the units. As of this week, the order for vertical units has starts this week, because now the system is complete. And the same with the enhancement units, with the horizontal installation. These units, once they arrive in our premises in Austria, will be part of the Iran negotiation technology with the American administration and the rest. We will produce them as, in a way, as a gift, or negotiation will go to Arizona once we reach understanding with the American administration. These are the edge of space technology. And I have asked that the transportation unit is production, or is test unit production to start on Friday. And we have come to an agreement with John in Arizona that a number of new vertical units will be there. And as now we have literally concluded our development of the new systems for them. Now the mass production literally starts this week or next week in China for the what we call enhancement units, horizontal ones, and vertical ones in Austria has already been ordered, the machinery to provide and develop the technology. We expect by end of March to see the vertical units ready to be shipped, again conditioned to peace negotiation with Iran, and horizontal ones to be shipped again to Austria, to Arizona and other locations. These are technologies against in exchange for peace. And as I said a few minutes ago, most probably it will be inaugurated. John, as the head of the Keshe Foundation in US, is there, and the process has to be very, very clear and transparent. Yeah, we make everything ready to go, but the American administration has to accept the severity of the technology in the space, that we can come into an arrangement of closing a lot of problems of the past.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome.
And from what I've been reading, Mr. Keshe, on the internet, and apparently from Secret Service and others, the health of the president, the current president of the United States, seems to be failing. as we can see on some of his videos and so on. So as you foretold us last year that it looks like Mrs. Harris is going to be moving into that position rather sooner than later.
Estimated health condition of your president is 3 months. I discussed this with Iranian officials a couple of days ago. We have a valid information within the White House. But the biggest problem is that the lady moving into the Oval Office has 2 attachments to it. And this is one of the reasons the state of Israel does not put so much pressure on Biden, because they know that the husband of Ms. Harris is a Jewish, and well, more or less, the state of Israel moves into the White House. But we are fully aware of this, and I have fully debriefed the Iranian officials of this position. And this is the reason why, as of today, Iran will not negotiate on a nuclear basis with America. We negotiate very simply. You can have all our donkeys. We have the space technology, advanced space technology, which makes the nuclear industry obsolete. That does not give any surprise to the nation to step outside the boundary of their own nations for any reason. We are fully aware of it, and we are seeing the next step coming up. We've been given. You got to realize this is not something which is just guesswork. It's very precise. When I was in Korea years ago, having breakfast with the ministers and the minister of what we call unification of the 2 Koreas, in one of the breakfast times, he said to me, Mehran, the president will die within such a time. I said, what you talking? I said, he's ill, nobody knows, but he's going to. And actually, he died within a few months, within the time they gave me. And I said, my God, they even know how these people die. The president of the United States will be called to be incapacitated to administer his position as a president, and she will take office. And repetitively, we saw the same mistakes as before with Biden, as with Obama's time in the past 48 hours. But we are prepared to move on. And as I said, Iran nuclear technology is a gift to the Americans if they want it, because it's no use. But we keep on working on it, we develop it. And from now on, Iran works on the basis, negotiates the basis of what we call the space technology plasma systems. And we can, as I said to one of the knowledge seekers, give us how many ships of the American naval forces would like us to sink in the bottom of the Indian Ocean for you within seconds, as long as there are no soldiers on it. This is a total change in the point of Iranian negotiation with the Americans and the rest of the 5+1. You do not have the technology, you don't have the knowledge we have, and we are prepared to give you the technology to join us. We move you forward by about 50 to 100 years, and the sanctions on Iran has to be terminated as of immediate effect on completion of negotiation with the Middle East. We do not need nuclear weapons, we do not need nuclear warheads. We have technology which is thousands of times more powerful.
Of course, we don't want anyone to get hurt, but putting ships at the bottom of the ocean, no one will see. But I always liked your idea of putting.
I said without any soldiers on them, because when
I
they're
understand,
there,
yes.
nobody will use them for war.
Right. I always was intrigued by the idea of when you presented months ago about hanging them up in the vertical position, like on a clothesline.
The thing is that we, as I take position to lead Iran in negotiations, as I made it clear to Iranian officials in past days, is that I don't negotiate from the point of weakness, I negotiate from point of strength. And now that Iran has disclosed my name as a Iran leading plasma physicist who's managed to bring the American, what we call forces, entertain, We are prepared to go a step further. That you can have all the keys to all the Iranian nuclear bases. They're obsolete. We kept you busy while we developed the technology, and now you can have the toy. And this is the basis Iran will negotiate. Matter of negotiation is that way, and I request the Iranian leadership to accept this way of negotiation from now on. If you're afraid of nuclear technology of Iran, it's yours. We don't need it. You can come and take all of it or bring your scientists to learn from us. But in essence, Iran space technology now leads the world, and it's a tool for peace. We don't leave that 3 months to negotiate with Tel Aviv. We decided, that's why I met with the Israelis last Monday. And this is a knowledge conveyed to them. You tell us which part of the Tel Aviv we want you to shut. You want us to shut down, we shut it down for you. Electricity, communication, and the rest. Without harming anyone. The peace negotiations from now on is not on nuclear, because we have the technology. You do not open the doors and end the sanctions. We take what we like, where we like. We have the power, we have the knowledge. Politely, when we take, we pay for it. As we said before, I stand solid behind the Iranian government and the leadership of Iran and Sepah, as much as I stand behind the leadership of the United States and the state of Israel and any other state like China and the rest. It has to be equality, but on the right way, and the only way. Peace and the exchange of technology for attaining and obtaining peace. Iran does not need nuclear technology anymore. We kept you fooled enough. Now we play our game.
Thank you for your leadership.
We don't lead, we negotiate.
Mr. Keshe, excuse me, the last one.
Yeah.
Some time ago, I bought cesium, a small jar. And now this little jar of cesium is roughly 2 meters far away from the 5 Stucker cup. This is it can be, it can change things in a bad way.
I don't know. Why did you buy cesium? How did you get cesium?
You know, at the beginning of the teaching, long time ago, you talk about cesium and high iodine, and how cesium stays like iron and cobalt. So I decided to buy a small amount of cesium because for producing guns of cesium. That's it. I still have this little jar, but I don't know.
Where is the little jar? What have made you to buy cesium?
Yeah, there is some place on the web you can buy anything you want. I bought this little jar because I make a system for replicate the field of cesium, just this. But now this little jar stay close to the 5 cups, and I always thinking, I don't know if it's healthy. Is a healthy stuff.
Have you made the guns of it, or is it still in the cesium?
I make the guns of it.
So he'll be in touch with it.
No, I put the guns far away from me in the garden, and but I don't know.
Isn't the cesium vitamin B12?
Yes,
No.
it is. No, actually, it is. It's
Yeah.
more or less cobalt, but we take it as what do you call it, B12. But this is a gamma ray source. But cesium is more or less does, but in the higher order. Cesium gamma radiation in the gas state has a different effect normally than the cobalt gamma, the combination of the iron and copper.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Buried underground and put it in in what I call a secure box.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, may I ask a question about the vertical enhancement unit, please?
Yes.
Do we have any restrictions with respect to the office? Can it be on an upper floor, a ground floor? Can it be?
We asked it to be on the first floor away from everything, and it is primarily for the field interactions, and in so many ways, it has to be in those what we call the first floor, that you have the minimum interaction with the fields.
So again, a second floor situation would be out of the question.
Your second, third is better. The higher you go, the better it gets.
Well, would it affect people on the lower floor?
Not really. It's just the interaction of it. This is what we observed in what I call in China, and this is why we brought this.
I was wondering about like a little clinic. Let's say a doctor has a clinic that's you know, maybe on the second floor of a building, but a small office. Would they be able to put a unit in there and practice?
I don't see why not. The new, what do you call it? The new vertical units are much easier to use for this purpose on the upper floors.
The way you described it was though to use it in combination with the horizontal unit. So is that a prerequisite, or can they be operated as a standalone unit, like I say, in small clinics?
Which one? The vertical one?
Yes, the vertical one.
This is a whole purpose of developing this vertical, to make it easier for it to be done this way. That it can be used literally on the ground and by any doctors immediately.
What would you say would be an average time spent in the, you said that you were in there for a couple of minutes and you had to leave, but would a 10-minute treatment or a 15-minute treatment be sufficient?
We depends on the case to case. This is primarily at the moment for the viruses, and we want to keep it that way till we expand it to the others. It is loaded for this purpose, and it is what I call specifically for one job, and we try to keep that in that way. That is at the moment for the viruses only.
I don't think the situation with the viruses is going to go away soon. So we will need something as an ongoing solution, pretty well on demand.
Hello.
Yes.
Do you know something about the mutations in Austria, for example, or Europe?
What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm destroyed since a few days, and I have symptoms like a lot of mutations. And
What is the mutation?
For example, muscle tissues in the upper and lower leg.
I don't know these things. You have to speak to doctors.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, I want to thank you very much for supporting us on this platform today, and I want to thank all the knowledge seekers for being here and devoting their time and allowing us to make our presentation today. I was wondering if there's anyone from the TV stations that might be able to offer any news on their progress. And on that, I'd like to hand it over back to you, Mark. And thank you all for today.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Mr. Keshe. You always do a superb job wherever I find you. I'm always impressed.
Depends what you need to know about the television station. People who are appointed and are within the structure of the television station are meeting tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And if you have not been given access, means we haven't received authorization from your communities or people who've been allocated. And tomorrow, then we split between the three groups of the news and the rest. And on Tuesday, the people who know more, 2-3 of them, will teach all how to use and what needs to be done and what you need for it. And then by Friday, you have 2 weeks to make the first programs that whatever it needs to be done or facilitate to find the positions that we can record and find out where the problems, where the mistakes or where the weaknesses are that we can cover and start the process for the last week before the new year. What do you call it? New beginning of the KFTV. We don't want to put anything outside. If there is anything to do with the television, it has to be discussed within the management group, which is set up by each language, and has to stay not to become public known unless you go back to your groups and your communities for the specific jobs or specific assignments that you want to carry out for the first months and whatever. But we don't discuss anything about TV work outside the what we call the working management team. Any other question?
I had a question, Mr. Keshe. In regards to the topic of the so-called vaccine that's been rolling out with millions of people receiving it, there's been reports of a lot of adverse reactions, you know, from convulsions to all kinds of really crazy stuff happening. And I'm just wondering if how we can help the people that are going through that right now. Will the GANS water help them, or is there any other things that we could do to help these people that are going through a really, really hard time right now after receiving the shot, the mRNA shot?
We do not get involved in this discussion because of the position we have as a Keshe Foundation legally in what we can advise or we can suggest, but primarily if the GANS cup number 1 and cup 2 has helped you with the corona, there is no reason. If the material made is to help or affect corona, that you cannot use the same cups. And if there is a convulsion with the corona, we usually advise the use of 5% magnesium. And this is the official line which the Keshe Foundation takes in these matters. And if the problem has started, as you might see the side effect of the some of the side effects of the injections we see is actually effects of corona we've seen in tests in Iran. So effectively, if you use the ganses in the appropriate way, then you should receive some what I call support from its structure.
Thank you very much.
If you ask me this question, let me have the TV channel, in the news, or in the, what we call scientific education, I'll answer you totally different. But
right.
Today, this is the way we stand. As we
I understand. Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. Any other question?
Hello, Mr. Keshe. Hello, everybody. Salomea here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'd like, if you can, to help us for our program on education.
What do you mean help?
How? To have access to your video for the beginning. I was wondering maybe
Which video? What's how we talk?
video with you, because we would like to use your teaching uh, to be confident that all what we say is correct first, and second, yes,
All the people who will be connected to the education part of the Keshe Foundation will be given access to the teaching materials which are available in the Keshe Foundation. And we just don't make it accessible to everyone who can get anywhere or whatever. But primarily, all the knowledge seekers who have been appointed by the group to be connected to the education part of the Keshe Foundation will be given access to the teaching materials of the Keshe Foundation without any prejudice. And that's how we stand in this regard. So if you are appointed to be and you pass the vetting position like any other Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers, you will have access to all the what I call the teachings materials which are in the teaching archive of the Keshe Foundation.
I see. And is with there are with you all this video, or
Whatever it is, I
everything?
don't know. I don't know what is in there. I don't live in there. But all the materials are what is available to all the education groups and people who are appointed to be of the for the education group back up in your national language. They'll be given the same access because they have to understand what they work with, what they have, and that they can produce the correct materials for education.
Yes.
But we don't give access to anyone just to go in, and the minute they are removed or they are not within the structure of your organization, their access will be closed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And yes, I thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, good evening. This is Kirk. I was from London. Sorry to bother you. Just a very quick question. The ceramic, what's the lead time for that? Do you know by any chance, please?
What do you mean ceramic?
The the bowls and cups and
These are all produced in Austria. They'll be shipped by the 15th or 20th of this month.
Okay. I've got a few people who wants a few things. One of them is for the diabetes. So is that on the menu as well? So that's also will be shipped 15th of this month coming?
Everything we are producing, I think about 200 of each initially because of the orders coming in. And then the order carries on that way as far as I know. We received a large number of orders and just keep on coming. And that's how it'll be kept for the time being.
Right. If you don't mind, sorry, I must have missed it. So we got one which does for diabetes, and the other one was for food.
There's one diabetic, one for blood pressure.
One for blood pressure, one for diabetes. Okay, great. And the other one, the third one?
It's just one for, we call it for sugar, and one is for pressure.
Okay, so with these two versions at the moment in ceramic stuff.
Sorry, what did you say?
Sorry, so we have got two different application at the moment in terms of selling
Three.
where
There is a life. There is a which is a cup of life. There is a sugar and a pressure.
cup of
We
life
will
does.
release, yeah, cup of life 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're introducing more materials, more what we call products, and as we are now on different platforms through like Amazon and the rest, and the what do you call it? The product range will increase quite a bit this next few weeks and months.
And Alibaba as well, you mentioned.
Alibaba is done by our Chinese counterparts, the Keshe Foundation China. Keshe Foundation China now has become a very large concern in China, as the Chinese government has returned the majority shares holding to Keshe Foundation, and by implication of the signed contract with the Chinese authorities, CPC, and what we call organization we partnership with, our knowledge value has been accepted into or written into the partnership. So Keshe Foundation has automatically moved, completing its what we call 5 billion condition of the transfer of technology to China. And the company now is matured as a corporation, and they move with all our subsidiaries in China, has become an operative organization with a full capital paid of 5 billion. This is part of the work, because initially we stay very open, because the governments have to know how we operate and the reason we operate, and the value, intellectual right value of the 50 million to value of 5 billion investment. It's taken us 2 years to complete, and this is part of the ownership stock of the what we call our central holding company, and we'll most probably we will have Mexico online for the first time before end of this month. Mexico is going into what we call operation, and it has its own central television center and the rest of it. What is important is that most of the knowledge groups, companies which are already registered, now can benefit by the Keshe Foundation in their own national language. For example, Brazilians, by opening the Keshe Foundation Brazilian shop, they can sell in Brazil the products of the Keshe Foundation Corporation as a whole, and deliver in Mexico. And what we call the profit made by it or from the sale of the products becomes operational capital for them to be able to run their programs or whatever they have to do. This is now expanding as it's gone, what do you call it, operational this way. You'll see more and more of these. For example, if you have a Keshe Foundation in Canada, you can open a Keshe Foundation website, shop, store, as we do, the way Arizona used to do, some of your own goods, or link into our stock in what we call in China, and you'll be charged what we call a structural value for all the Keshe Foundations, because we own your operation partially, and then the profit made from this will become your operational cost to run, buy materials, open the studio, and the rest. This is now in progress, and most of the knowledge seekers now, if you have a company which is owned, controlled, or under management of the Keshe Foundation Austria, you will be given access to the stock of the Keshe Foundation, which is held in what we call in China or in, and you sell the products in the local, what we call the structures, and what I call local Amazons or different groups and chains. And that profit will become for your organization to run and expand and whatever you want to do in the language or develop different centers. We have restructured the Keshe Foundation this way now, and we see Brazil, I think, is one of the first one. Mexico is the second one, is coming into operation in the next few days by opening their shops and selling the same Keshe Foundation, but in their own websites through their national organizations. And this way now, Keshe Foundations become self-sufficient to run their organization.
So these stores that are going to be located in malls and things, they're going to have stock where people can come in and handle the product or see the product. This will be such a unique store. Most of the stores, more or less, are pretty similar, but this is going to be a unique place to come.
Yes, but don't forget, now you open shops on the internet in like Brazil, in Portuguese language, and is run by the Keshe Foundation Brazil. We have opened the whole Keshe Foundation has been restructured in past few weeks. We have opened a company in China as a central holding for all Keshe Foundation worldwide. And everybody buys from that stockhold. And for example, if you buy from the stockhold at, let's say, $2, and on the website of the Brazil, in Brazil we sell $4, that balance of $2 is what is going to be used in Brazil for whatever need of the company decides to set up a factory or whatever. Or open a shop in malls and bring the products and whatever it is.
Mr. Keshe, what
We had
happened
to do this. Pardon?
Sorry. What happened to the distributors?
Distributors still operate the same. It doesn't touch this. More distributors to expand, and we expand the products and the distributors in a very, very wide way. Now, Keshe Foundation Retail has been separated from the Keshe Foundation Research. This took us nearly 3 years to do. And now the retail side has taken totally different shape and structure. As I said, the two ladies have taken over the Keshe Foundation running, and they've decided to go this way. So the retail is retail, and the research and development is separated, and the manufacturing is separated. And these two, there was a lot of interacting, and one taking too much from the other, blocking the others to move. Now this is resolved inside the Keshe Foundation. We have set up structures that these things would not happen again. So the retail continuously develops, delivers all the backlogs, the things we saw has been more or less resolved. Except what we call the generators that now, hopefully very soon, Keshe Foundation will release the generators once we resolve our position with American on the 5+1. Because this will bring a massive change. It's in the what we call enhancement unit, so we have to see how we can handle it. And as we've seen, enhancement units and vertical enhancement units are handled by the Keshe Foundation itself, Keshe Foundation Austria, not through the retail, because it's totally different structure of work. The whole Keshe Foundation inside that has been restructured.
These talks that you're engaged in, are they officially called +1 or 5+2, or is there a certain?
We will. It has to be disclosed by on the completion by the Americans and the Europeans. We are advisors into these teams. And we take a leading position in these negotiations as advisors.
Mr. Keshe, can I ask you about the Paris Climate Accord and how the CO2 capture affects that? My lack of understanding is I just don't understand how Canada.
We will go. I have to tell you one thing about this you brought up. We will not touch the Paris Accord till we open the Keshe Foundation television. And part of the Keshe Foundation television program in the coming time, when we give it to the Keshe Foundation operation, not to the news or the education, is to bring scientists and show the technology on television, on the TV channel. We'll emphasize in the very early stages the space and environment and Paris Accord, especially bringing scientists and politicians from around the world and who have prime positions.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I have a very clear idea how the television station should run, and then we will assign through different groups like the Americans or the Chinese or the Brazilians or whatever, to produce a series of documentaries very rapidly that it can be broadcasted in conjunction with the politicians, and we will show the systems. Many people around the world never seen a CO2 in a gas state that they could hold. And this will bring, when they see it on television done, then you do a show and the picture is totally different. And this is the same way with what we call the space technology. We take lead in a lot of things in a new way of showing and teaching it what we have. There's a process to do. You have to, the people who are in the new documentaries have to work together to find the people, groups, organizations who are signed or work to the Paris Accord in their nation, organize television interviews, make recording with them, and then as part of the program, introduce the Keshe Foundation to it. We teach them how to do and how to go about it.
Cirillo has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, Mr. Keshe. This is Cirillo Solis from Peru. In the Spanish group, we have a couple of questions. The first one is regarding to teachings. We understand that there are private teachings, but also public ones that are available to everyone else that can hear through the TV. So there will be private teachings through Keshe television?
Yes, but you have to make it in Spanish. The Spanish group, teaching group, have to make these vision presentations of the teaching.
Okay, Mr. Keshe, just let me please few seconds, I'm going to translate it. Para las personas que están escuchando en español, la pregunta era si van a haber enseñanzas privadas en la televisión Keshe. El señor Keshe dice que sí, sí van a haber, pero que van a estar a cargo de los grupos en español. Okay, Mr. Keshe, my second question, or our second question is regarding our workshops via Zoom. As you know, we have different Monday and sometimes on Wednesday and so on. So those workshops will stop and will be using the television instead.
No,
Zoom
no,
channel.
no. You keep, as we said before, you keep your teachings as they are. If you
Okay.
want to make your teachings live in the times you have, that then you can send it to the television channel to be broadcasted the same in your language when the time is allocated. Then,
Okay.
yes, you
Okay.
can do so.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
nothing changes. It's taken a long time to get these teachings as you have organized. We're not touching those.
Okay.
We,
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Yeah,
if you want
please
to
go
do
ahead.
them live while you're doing your teaching, if you have a studio, somebody can say, like Brazil, on Friday night. Rafael reads from the document, or the lady who translates, and instead of sitting there just being a voice, if they make a studio and they sit in two different parts of Brazil or together in one studio, and that can be used in the what you call Brazilian broadcast for the television. You put a teaching section and you get a testimonial. So you say 2 hours of or 3 hours of the Friday teaching of Brazil, if it's made on a camera recording, and they decide they want to have all of it or part of it as part of their weekly teaching, can be done.
Okay,
You have to
understood.
decide. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. Just
Thank
let
you
me
very much.
translate it. Sí, en efecto, los talleres del grupo español en los canales de Zoom se van a mantener tal cual están, eso no se va a alterar, pero sí tenemos la opción para el grupo español de preparar nuestras presentaciones de nuestros propios talleres, como las que se hacen en las de Brasil, que pueden ser pregrabados, y podríamos tener de 2 a 3 horas para publicarlos a través de la televisión. En resumen, eso es lo que dijo el señor Keshe. Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. As the television center in Linz, Austria takes shape maybe by early April, the teachings will be live from the studio, like the way we used to do from Italy, with the difference that these teachings, or these Thursday teachings, will be allowed to be subtitled into the languages of your national language. That will be in the archive. People can listen to it in the national language, translated or transcribed. But this takes a few weeks or a few months to come.
Hello, this is in Michigan. I have one more question, and that is, I have a generator on order, and I was wondering if you know if there's going to be a problem with the building inspection or all these regulations that we have to deal with in terms of electric usage.
No, we don't think so. They'll come certified units. The new power generators, MAGRAV units, will come out as a certified units. There is a then the generators which we are now using them in the enhancement units are of a totally different technology and design, which is in public. And it'll take us completion on enhancement units. as part of negotiation again with the American government before release. It's taken a different course for us as the enhancement unit, especially the vertical enhancement unit. Now the two machines become edge of technology in space, in medicine, in production of material, in power generation. In one move, we have changed as like a planetary system. That was the whole idea in the lab when we started doing this. And we have already gone into the second generation once we completed the first generation to a more powerful system. And with it, we had to go to build the transportation system, or what we call transmutation of energies. And these are in a very rapid developments. And the power backbone of these systems. And it's taken months and months to tame this animal. We produce energy, but we couldn't tame it. Now we have managed to tame the energy to what we need. And it'll be, it's just now we have to see how we work with it in the coming days and weeks.
Thank you.
But everything we produce as usual is CE certificated.
Okay.
But the generators will be produced only in Europe. We're not producing the generators in China.
Okay. Another question. With the paint additives, if there's going to be more of them coming out later on, that we would like to...
No, it's already out.
I know.
Yes.
All of them?
The four of them, yes, which has been advertised, yeah.
Yep. Does that include the one for heating and cooling?
The heating and the cooling is a combination of the two.
Okay.
It keeps a constant temperature of 22 to 24.
Wonderful. Great.
That is already as part of the two, but it'll be more extensively explained in the coming weeks as we go further with it.
Yeah, I just wondered if we added other ones later on, if they would affect each other in
No, they should
unforeseen
not
ways.
do. They should not do. They should not.
All
do.
right. Thank you so much.
The material is there. You're welcome. The materials, our next step, we will release hopefully next this week, is the pain and the inflammation materials, and we have to be very much what we call line up with what the Keshe Foundation has done before.
And the one for blood pressure, is that, are you going
It's
to be
already
taking
on.
that?
This has already been put in.
Ah, I was looking, didn't find it.
This is the pressure. If you look at the one with pressure,
Okay, I will look
you have
again.
sugar and the pressure. We want to know your responses. We want to know how you see it and what you feel with it. But please read the instruction. There is an instruction how to use these cups.
Yes.
It's
This is for my sister who's the lower value of the blood pressure goes down to unreadably low. So
you
when there's
cannot, you have to bring a balance in.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a structure with a what do you call, with these cups, how to use it, the way it has to be used, and in conjunction with what you can use it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Shall we call it? I'll stop talking. Then shall I? It's your program. Thank you very much.
I think you're getting ready to play with the newborn, although it's just been born.
Oh, she's thousands of kilometers away.
Oh, there's no distance.
It's no distance, but at the moment with the lockdowns, we have to abide by the rules.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. She's gorgeous. She has already become a picture on the telephone, so she's there.
By the way,
Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, Mubarak.
Mubarak, Shady Mamdun. She is precious to us. She's the first daughter in our family. And this is something I've been waiting for years. And she's very precious. Thank you very much indeed. See you hopefully on Thursday.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.